Hi there, my name is Jay and I'm a former professional wrestling editor and producer, here to share my perspective about current or recent professional wrestling events. Today's topic is Impact Wrestling's Against All Odds event. Have fun and welcome to the show.
Impact Wrestling. What hasn't been said about the promotion from Nashville over the years? And what a crazy history that company has, sending fans, myself included, on a wild ride. From humble beginnings with weekly pay-per-views to a lucrative deal on Spike TV, leading up to a run where basically every household name in wrestling history has been part of the company at one point or another. Finally culminating in Hulk Hogan joining the company and sending the company into one of their most successful but also most controversial runs. What followed were years of uncertainty, the company rebranding from TNA to Impact Wrestling, losing their TV deal time and time again, and a shit show of a legal situation with Billy Corgan and Jeff Jarrett. Now, they're back to a stable situation at the time of writing.
I'm the first one to tell you that I've been a very invested TNA fan over the years, but at a certain point it just kind of fell off. Too much had changed, and after some time, 2014, 2015-ish, kind of felt like the company was heading towards an end, but as many have pointed out over the years, TNA, or as it now is called, Impact Wrestling, is that one wrestling company that just won't die, no matter what you do. So I've been told that their booking has mostly been consistent and their storylines have been solid, and their live attendance has been growing since they started including and incorporating a smart touring schedule. So I've been already kind of intrigued, but what really piqued my interest was the news about Against All Odds, and more specifically what happened during that show with the Motor City Machine Guns, but more on that later. So let's watch the show, find out what interested me the most, if it was worth watching, and why it piqued my interest in the TNA Impact Wrestling product again, and why I might even consider buying a YouTube subscription to watch the weekly Impact Wrestling show. Let's go!
Impact Wrestling's Against All Odds pay-per-view took place on June 9th, 2023, from the Ohio Expo Center in Columbus, Ohio. While official attendance numbers are unknown, it was announced that the show was sold out. First of all, we've got Frankie Kazarian taking on Eddie Edwards, both of which I'm very familiar with. Especially Kazarian, who has been a staple of TNA for years, and Edwards, who is most well known for his time teaming with Davey Richards in Ring of Honor.
I haven't seen the episodes of Impact Wrestling leading up to this show, so I just kind of had to work with what they're telling me and what they're showing me on how the matches came together. So this one seems to be all about respect.
Money, power, and respect.
Respect!
Frankie Kazarian believes that they're good and bad veterans in professional wrestling, and he's a little bit tired of how Eddie Edwards behaved himself.
Early on, Kazarian tries to go for a quick victory, and they keep referencing Killer Kowalski, who apparently taught both Edwards and Kazarian. Kaz thinks Edwards is disrespecting the legacy of Kowalski, so he tries to beat him with Kowalski's signature moves. I think that's a very nice personal touch for the matchup, makes it more personal. There seems to be a bit of timing issues early on, and it's not too long before Edwards goes for heelish tactics, as he blindsides Kazarian, who is distracted by Edwards' wife at ringside. From this point on, Edwards takes control and works over Kazarian with slow and plodding offense. With interferences from Alicia Edwards, Kazarian is fighting this match at a disadvantage and tries to overcome the odds. Just as Kaz is trying to fight back, Edwards regains control with a big dive and missile dropkick. Tension finally boils over as Edwards slaps Kazarian, who fires up and dumps Edwards on the floor, and follows up with a spectacular Hurricane Rana to the floor, followed by some of his signature offense. It's amazing to see what Kaz is still able to pull off at this stage of his career. Edwards and Kazarian go back and forth, and neither seems to be able to put the other one away. Kazarian managed to hit the Fatal Black, but the 3 count is prevented by Alicia Edwards putting Eddie's foot on the rope. For this interference, however, she's kicked out of the arena. Eddie Edwards manages to pull off a superplex, but Kazarian cradles his legs. Again, there's some miscommunication and the pinfall count is botched. Both scramble to improvise another finish, as Kazarian picks up the victory.
It's a bit of a shame that this matchup had like some early issues, but then also a messed up finish on top, because otherwise it would have been a very fun opening contest. There was some great offense and some decent, even though very basic storyline, and a crowd that was really hot for it and into it. But But sadly, that was overshadowed by the two of them not really clicking or miscommunicating, and that could be excused by mentioning that this was the first singles match between the two, but they're like year-long veterans of the game, so they should be expected to work a little bit better together regardless. I would have liked to see them work a little bit more against each other and a little bit more polished. So because of that, in the current state, I have to give this match a C+, but could have been a very fun opener.
We've got a backstage interview with one of the teams for the first ever 8-for-1 match that earns the winner a world title shot. Basically, everyone trusts each other, but in the end, it's everyone for themselves. Bully Ray claims he cannot be trusted, but will lead his team to the second phase of the match. The Good Hands seem to be under the wing of Brian Myers and have earned a title shot by beating DK and one half of the tag team champions in a singles match. Recently, however, the tag team champs beat both of their challengers in singles matches. In the hype package, they also showed a beatdown by the Good Hands, and since they have Myers as their manager, they have a numbers advantage. Myers cuts a promo during their entrance, getting some heat, putting down the champions. The tag team champions have the advantage early on with nice team offense. A blind tag by the Good Hands puts them into the driver's seat, however, working over the champions with classic tag team wrestlings, cutting the ring in half. Eventually, Ace Austin manages to get the tag to his partner Chris Bay, who comes in with a hot tag, taking out both contenders, taking back the advantage with spectacular offense. The tag team champions' tandem offense backfires, however, and the Good Hands get a near fall with a nice spear through the ropes. Ace Austin comes back with some kicks and takes out Brian Myers with a tope. The Good Hands use this short distraction to execute some high-impact offense to the outside. Chris Bay jumps over the referee to regain control. That was freaking cool. But Brian Myers on the outside takes out Austin with a belt shot. The Good Hands take advantage of this and hit the Magic Killer on Austin, who kicks out in the last second. Austin tries to fight both the challengers, and the tag team champions work together to capture the win.
This one was a fast-paced, well-executed match. Even though it was a bit on the shorter side, it was fun to watch. I didn't really buy the Good Hands as serious contenders, and as a result there wasn't a lot of tension or drama, but it was very fun to watch, and I'm giving this one a B.
Now we've got an interview with Deonna, Purazzo, and Trinity, who will face each other at next month's Slammiversary event, but will team against Gisele Shaw and Savannah Evans later on tonight. They both say they respect each other and want to face each other at 100%. The hype package for the dog collar match showed lots and lots of violence and backstage brawls, so this seems to be a heated rivalry culminating in this dog collar match.
Generally, I'm not the biggest fan of a dog collar match stipulation, as I feel this stipulation limits the athletes too much in what they can do. Sure, there have been great dog collar matches that have been brutal. I just feel like this is way hard to have a good match, and you need everything to really be in place for this one to be decent.
Both of them start out exchanging shots, and Slamovich starts incorporating the chain into her offense very early on and works over Killer Kelly's hand. Lots of choking and throwing around with the chain as Kelly starts to fight back, but Slamovich rolls out of the ring to pull Killer Kelly into the ring post and choke her with it too. Both exchange shots and go for a strike at the same time. It looks a bit clumsy. They do the spot again and both go down. Kelly starts unloading on Slamovich, hitting her repeatedly with headbutts. A nice double underhook suplex that surely wasn't easy with the chain, followed up by a dropkick and a DDT. Kelly tries to choke Slamovich in the corner, but Slamovich fights back and Kelly falls out of the ring, only to be choked again by Slamovich. That looked pretty nasty, but it's still not enough. Killer Kelly locks in a sleeper hold, and Slamovich tries to roll her up, but Kelly keeps the hold. She hits a nice looking snowplow, but it doesn't put Slamovich away. Kelly now goes for a sleeper hold again, but Slamovich wraps the chain around Kelly's neck and hits her own snowplow for the victory. Slamovich pulls Killer Kelly up after a match and just leaves.
I thought this was a very decent match, even though they had a slight hiccup in there. The beginning was a bit too slow for my taste, but they picked up the pace later on and ramped up the intensity, and I thought they used the stipulation cleverly and to their advantage. I'm kind of disappointed that the injured hand didn't really play into the finish, but otherwise the finish was very creative and a good solution. and I'm giving this match a B too.
The story behind this is simple. Chris Sabin had Trey Miguel beat and should have been 9-time X Division champion, but he got bested by the current champion, who used spray paint to defeat him in the past. Miguel claims Sabin is a has-been now and doesn't have what it takes anymore. Sabin wants to prove him wrong and shut him up for good. Sabin and Shelley get interviewed and emphasize how important this night is to them, as Shelley challenges for the world title later on tonight. Miguel tries to keep away from Sabin at the beginning of the match, but Sabin goes right after him with a big cannonball dive. As they come back into the ring, Sabin keeps working over Miguel with high-impact offense. Miguel, however, comes back with a nice kick and a neckbreaker and then starts taking over the match. Sabin counters a springboard move with a lethal combination. A nice nod to former X Division champion Jay Lethal, of course. Both fighting on the apron, and Sabin spears Miguel to the floor. Sabin keeps working the midsection, and they both smoothly transition from the corner into a crucifix-type slam that looked really nice. Sabin keeps working Miguel and hits a nice pump handle driver. Miguel traps a leg of Sabin and hits him with a beautiful suplex and transitions into an Indian deathlock. Both of them work really well together. They keep fighting for control until Miguel locks in a Dragon Sleeper, but Sabin breaks free, only for Miguel to remain on offense. Eventually, Sabin comes back with the Angel's Wings, but it's not enough to win the match. Miguel keeps blocking the cradle shot and hits impressive looking double knees, which Sabin counters into a roll-up. Miguel hits the cradle shock on Sabin, but Sabin kicks out. Miguel screams in frustration. Seems like he isn't sure what to do anymore. He goes for the spray paint again that proved to be successful for him in the past, but the referee catches the first one. But Miguel, being the dastardly heel that he is, has a second one hidden in his pants, and he sprays Chris Sabin in the eyes and rolls him up, but it's still not enough. Miguel seems shocked as he can't put Sabin away. Miguel puts Sabin on the top rope but isn't sure what to do, so Sabin drops him onto the top turnbuckle. Both fight back and forth until Sabin hits the style clash for a near fall. He hits a huge clothesline and then the cradle shock for the victory and the X Division Championship.
This was a great match. I thought they worked really well together. They were super smooth. They did some creative offense, and I thought they had a very, very competitive match where both of them came out looking super strong. There were some nice touches like the former X Division champions moves being used, and the drama worked really well too. Trey getting more and more frustrated and then kind of being his undoing as a champion. I was very entertained. I just wish it would have been a tiny bit longer, but other than that, really solid, great match. I'm giving this one an A-. This one is supposed to be for the number one contendership for the Impact Wrestling World title. For whatever reason, this starts out as an 8-man tag, then turns into a 4-way match, and somehow the winner will be the number one contender, so leave it to Impact Wrestling to uphold the time-honored tradition of making shit more complicated than it needs to be. I mean, this could be fun, but it could also just be a 4-way or 8-man match. I don't know. Let's see how this one goes.
Anyway, it's Moose, Rich Swann, Mike Bailey, and PCO versus Nick Aldis, Bully Ray, Heath, and Jonathan Gresham. Just naming those teams is a mouthful. It's a slow and plodding tag team match in the beginning, Rich Swann and Heath with some comedy. Then there's a nice toss by Heath. Moose takes out Heath, which secures his team the advantage, but is also causing some friction in the team. They take turns dishing out punishment on Heath until Bully Ray takes out Mike Bailey. Bully works Bailey for a while until he's able to make the tag after a nice spin kick. PCO runs wild for a while, and then he dives with the ropes. Jonathan Gresham just bounces off of PCO, which is hilarious, and he follows up with a nice jumping leg drop. Moose tags himself in and powerbombs Gresham. That looked nasty. Rich Swann now tags himself in and gets accidentally taken out by Moose. Gresham picks up the pin, and this match now turns into a 4-way dance between Jonathan Gresham, Heath, Bully Ray, and Nick Aldis. Just seeing all of this unfold, I'm wondering why this just didn't start out as a 4-way dance, but whatever. Everyone now goes for Bully, but eventually Aldis attacks Heath. Aldis, Gresham, and Heath hit the what's up on Bully Ray. Everyone now is trying to pick up a quick win, which gives a nice sense of urgency since this is for the, #1 contendership for the world title. Gresham hits a beautiful dive, but Bully takes over the match again. He's going for a steel chair to hit Gresham with, as suddenly Scott D'Amore shows up and takes a chair out of Bully's hands. Eventually, he hits Bully with it. D'Amore has apparently been attacked by Bully Ray and Steve Maclin in the past, so this advances their feud nicely and takes Bully out of the match. Heath then hits a Tower of Doom, and Gresham goes for a submission hold on Heath. But Aldous eventually hits an elbow drop on both of them to pick up the win with a cloverleaf on Heath.
This one is really hard to judge because the 8-man tag team part wasn't bad, but it was nothing to write home about. And the match would have flowed way nicer without it being there, but also the segment with Scott D'Amore and Bully Ray kind of killed the little flow that the match had to begin with. And then after all of that had been resolved, it was a decent sort of match, but with a bittersweet taste of you knowing that it could have been so much better if it would have been a four-way dance from the beginning. I'm giving this one C- maybe. Yeah, C- sounds good.
Now we got a backstage interview with Steve Maclin, who says he's not worried about facing Alex Shelley, nor is he worried about facing Nick Aldis at Slammiversary. To be honest, I don't know much about Maclin, but that was a nice promo, even if it was a little bit subdued, but it's still fine. Trinity and Deonna are set to face each other for the women's title at Slammiversary, but they have to fight Shaw and Evans here first. I couldn't understand much from the hype package other than they can't stand each other and that Shaw and Evans are dangerous people. I couldn't get more from it, and would have been nice to have that context, but there we are. Purazzo goes right after Evans and lights her up, but Shaw fires back. Trinity comes in and drops a split on Shaw, who tags out shortly after. Trinity is also able to take down the much bigger Savannah Evans. I don't know how long Evans has been working for, but she takes Purazzo down with a wonky looking clothesline. The heels take over the match and work over Purazzo in the corner. More attacks, more teamwork, and submission holds by Evans and Shaw. After fighting out of a chinlock, Deonna anticlimactically tags in Trinity, who runs wild and hits a nice set-out facebuster on Evans. The heel manager distracts the referee, and they regain their advantage. Now Trinity is getting into the corner. After a while, she starts fighting back and eventually stumbles into a springboard kick to start her team's comeback. The way the kick landed, I sure hope Savannah Evans didn't get hurt. It didn't look too nice. Deonna Purazzo comes in with a nice hot tag sequence that leads into an armbar, but Shaw is able to get to the ropes. Shaw hits a nice combination, but Trinity follows up with a hip attack. Evans then hits Trinity with a kick, and Purazzo hits Evan with one of her own. Purazzo with a messy fast press on Evans. The heel manager takes out Trinity to prevent a tag from happening, but Purazzo rolls up Evans for the win anyway. That was a weird finish, to be honest. Purazzo fights off the heels on her own after a match, but the numbers catch up on her. Before anything else can happen, Trinity saves her and clears the ring. Both of them shake hands and embrace as a show of respect.
Even if this match would have been cleaner, it wouldn't have been very exciting. It would have just been a very basic tag team match. Nothing too exciting and nothing to write home about. But it was kind of clunky, was serviceable maybe, but it was just... Well, there was some botched spots in there and it didn't flow really well, and a very odd feeling finish. I'm giving this one a D.
Sami Callihan has been infiltrating the design, who were trying to mentally put him down, getting some backup from his former partners from the OVE stable. Both trios have been through tough battles, and this match is supposed to end it all.
It's kind of incredible for me to see Deonna in this very serious role, just knowing him as the comedy goof that was with ODB and thought he won the Knockouts Championship. So I'm very impressed by his range and what he can portray, and I'm just curious to see how he performs in the ring.
Everyone starts brawling as soon as the bell sounds, and weapons start coming into play after seconds. Lots of chaos, lots of quick cuts as something is happening everywhere. Sami Callihan shoves Angels into a ladder that suddenly appeared somehow at ringside. Everyone keeps fighting while a very loud chant breaks out. The Ohio crowd loves OVE. Jay Christ hits a Van Daminator in the corner. Somehow there's a barbed wire rolling pin that gets used on Deonna. Looking a bit more comedic than probably intended, Angel gets T-bone suplex onto her chair by Callahan, and that one looked really painful. Angels gets stapled into the chest, but the design turned the next attempt around and stapled Sammy a few times. Madman Fulton turned the match back around for OVE with a nice combination offense. Sammy calls for barbed wire and gets some boards into the ring. They tease Angels getting powerbombed into the wire board, but he breaks free and fights back, wrapping wire around his arm and hitting a clothesline. Christ with a DVD and then going for a dive, but Angels cuts him off and tries to slam him into the barbed wire. Sammy prevents it though. Angels now tries to hit Callahan with a diving headbutt, but Christ jumps from the other corner and cuts him off with a beautiful looking cutter. Deonna gets suplex into the barbed wire, selling the pain really well. Callahan brings thumbtacks into play, going for a pile driver, but gets chokeslammed into the tags for his efforts. The two big men of the teams brawl up the ramp until both of them fall off the stage and through a table. Deonna slams Christ through one of the setup razor wire boards with a reverse DDT burning hammer looking move, so the design has a 2-on-1 advantage now. But Deonna gets frustrated that they didn't get the win and starts shouting at Angels to pick up Callahan. Sammy ducks, and Deonna hits Angels with a baseball bat. Sammy then hits Deonna with a pile driver, but Deonna kicks out. Sammy then hits him with a bat and then pile drives him onto the wire board for the win.
That was a wild and heated brawl, and I really enjoyed that they teased the barb/razor wire for a while before they incorporated it into their spots. They did some spectacular stuff and some very high intensity brawling, so this made it look like it was this heated battle that was supposed to be, at least from what I could gather from the hype package. Just wish they would have been a little less chaotic in the beginning, give it a little bit more space to breathe and build. Other than that, it was a great match. It was fun, and I'm giving this one a B+.
Shelley recently won a #1 contenders match not long after Maclin became champion. Maclin and Bully Ray brutalized Impact Wrestling's president, Scott D'Amore, explaining the details of the story segment in the 8-4-1 match. Maclin claims that he could do in 2 years what Shelley couldn't do in 20, and that is winning the World Championship. It is time for Alex Shelley to prove himself, if he can do it. Maclin has the size and power advantage and shows it off early on, but Shelley keeps out wrestling him. As soon as Shelley gets Maclin into a submission hold, he goes for the ropes and takes a break outside. They do a great job telling us that Maclin is very cautious and has a lot of respect for Shelley's abilities. Maclin's power, however, helps him gain control of the matchup, but Shelley smartly goes for Maclin's limbs. Maclin takes a break again, only to get hit by a diving foot stomp on his arm, and then a jumping knee strike. Shelley keeps working Maclin's arm, who sells the pain nicely. Shelley drops a knee onto the arm of the turnbuckle and locks in an armbar, but Maclin gets to the ropes. Shelley then misses a kick, and Maclin hits a German suplex and goes for a scary looking tope to the outside. Now Maclin starts working over Shelley's back on the outside. Maclin drops an elbow onto Shelley from the apron. Back into the ring, Maclin keeps the pressure on Shelley's back. Shelley tries to come back by attacking Maclin's arm, but Maclin overpowers him and hits an Olympic slam. Maclin then hits a beautiful butterfly backbreaker, but eventually Shelley takes out Maclin with a chop block and both start exchanging strikes. Shelley focuses on Maclin's arm, but eventually takes him down with a forearm to the head. Shelley gets a near fall, but immediately transfers into a submission hold, out of which Maclin breaks free. However, Shelley is able to keep him in check, and he ties Maclin into a pretzel and kicks him into the face. That looked nasty. Shelley then locks in a figure 4 and Maclin screams in pain, but he gets to the ropes eventually. He rips off the middle turnbuckle pad. Shelley then hits a nice fisherman's neckbreaker, and Maclin fights back with a brutal kick, jumping knee strike, and a brainbuster, but Shelley still kicks out. Maclin goes to the top rope and hits a diving headbutt, and god, how I hate that people still use that move. But anyway, Shelley avoids Maclin and drops in on the apron, only to hit sliced bread on the floor. Both shuffle for position and moves until Maclin hits an underhook DDT. But Shelley still gets his foot on the rope, so he's still in the match. Shelley then hits a beautiful looking sliced bread off of the top rope, but Maclin still kicks out, and Shelley grows visibly frustrated, wondering what he still needs to do. Maclin shoves Shelley's back into the exposed turnbuckle and hits a nice piledriver variation, but Shelley still kicks out. Maclin puts Shelley upside down into the Tree of Woe, but misses charging at him and hits his head into the exposed turnbuckle. Shelley beautifully transitions Maclin into the Border City stretch, but Maclin gets out and both fight for control. Shelley drops Maclin into the turnbuckle again, hits a super kick, and then the shell shock for the win to a huge pop. Sabin comes down to the ring, and the Motor City Machine Guns celebrate their victories together as the show fades to black.
This was an excellent match, and I'm really impressed by Maclin's work, but I'm also just really happy about Alex Shelley finally winning his first World Championship. I thought both of them worked really well together and played to each other's strengths. Alex Shelley and Steve Maclin, they looked really evenly matched in this one. So Alex Shelley had to work the body parts and Maclin had to use his strengths. And the match and the finish really embodied that as well, I felt like. It could have gone either way, and in the end it was just kind of Maclin's carelessness that sealed the deal and opened the opportunity for Shelley to finally win. This was really great. It was fun to watch. It was high intensity drama. The crowd exploded at the end, and it just speaks for the work that they did. It was great. I'm giving this one an A.
This was a really fun event to come back to Impact Wrestling. It had some great matches and some serviceable ones, but it felt fresh, entertaining, and easy to understand. While some of the video packages could have been clearer what the feuds were about, the commentary team did a great job filling in the gaps, and the production was also solid. I don't know how I feel about the ongoing storylines yet, but I'll keep a closer look until Slammiversary, so maybe I can give a better assessment about that in that review. If you're nostalgic about TNA's past, you should definitely watch the Motor City Machine Guns matches, and maybe check out some of the rest of the card. I'd also recommend the Ohio Street Fight. That was a lot of fun. Overall, I think I'm giving this one a B, and that's it. Thank you for joining me in my review. If you liked this video, consider sharing it, leaving a comment if you have any feedback, and see you next time. Take care.